Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. And this watch is actually a update of a model that originally launched in 2019. You're looking at the Patek Philippe 5172G-010. The original version of this watch in white gold had a blue dial. This one has a salmon dial. And in both cases, it appears Patek Philippe learned from the rollout of the 5170 that you should really give people the variants they want immediately instead of waiting years to roll out the pieces that the collectors demand. You remember that the original 5170 rolled out with a very frumpy dial featuring Roman numerals and stick indices, a yellow gold case, a silver dial. Well, right out of the gate in 2019, its replacement, the 5172, came in a white gold case with a fully loomed blue dial. And then this is exactly that, but with blackened white gold, hands and numerals, and a salmon dial. So in other words, Patek realized the first two variants of the 5172 would be exactly what collectors craved. So you get to cut right to the chase and buy the variant you wanted. White gold, 41 millimeters in diameter. Some of these design features on the dial and the case form were first rolled out on the 5320 perpetual calendar, and they work very nicely here. It's bigger than the 5170, though not huge. 41 in diameter, 11.8 millimeters thick. It's 49.2 from lug to lug. It's got a 21 millimeter spacing in between the lugs. And we'll put it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. And as I mentioned, bigger than the 5170, but not huge. It's a flat watch, and you can see with a stepped case and a dramatically boxed and cambered plexi-like sapphire, it will easily slide under a cuff. It's an easy watch to wear, though I'd probably say that you want to wear this on a wrist of 16 centimeters circumference or larger, mine is 16. This feels like a good match. It's an easy watch to cuff. I would even say maybe if your wrist is 15 centimeters circumference, if it's completely flat across the top, this might work. Strap is high grade, as you can see, calfskin on the bottom, no crimping, no gouging. It's a brand new Patek Philippe factory strap. And we have gloss, dark brown, alligator leather on the top with a little bit of a distressed grain and a monotone stitch, and then sheer cut edges that are lacquered for refinement. We have a white gold clasp that, like the watch, is a variant of white gold called gray gold, which is white all the way through and never requires rhodium plating. Calatrava Cross, it's the logo of the company. You also see it on the crown. And then we've got this little radial spring, and this spring does a pretty good job of retaining the clasp. Even though it's not a trigger actuated deployant clasp, it's still quite secure, and it doesn't pop open easily because of that rather robust and resilient spring system. You can see that the lugs feature a triple tier, which is lovely. And again, some of these elements were first floated on the 5320 perpetual calendar. We have a dramatic stepping or tier-like quality to the edge of the case. You can see that the lugs break off very sharply from the case band, which is a nice dramatic look that speaks to the increasing sophistication of Patek Philippe's ever-expanding in-house case construction. And then we've got a little design that's very common on watches, designed to give a bigger, fuller lug without making the watch thicker. It's where you allow the lugs to extend up the side of the bezel, and you can see here they actually climb that first tier. But there's a distinct gap between the lug and the second tier, which creates a fascinating and beguiling sort of gulf between them. As a visual detail, it's fascinating. I haven't quite resolved it, but it really does catch my eye and capture my imagination. I think a lot about it. We then have this dramatically double-curved, boxed and cambered sapphire that really does look like a vintage plexi, and vintage is the name of the game here. Not one specific model, though you can see a lot of them being recalled. We've got a little bit of tasty-tondy turbine-style round buttons out here. And then notice the countersink of the crown, that it's not sitting on the outermost face of the case. It's actually slightly sunken in so it doesn't protrude too much. We've got white gold indices, numerals, and hands, but they're blackened for better contrast on this soft, sort of very lightly grained opaline rose or opaline salmon. We have a vintage style set of syringe hands, and then another vintage style tachometric scale on the dial. Now, before the 1960s, typically when you had a tachometric scale for gauging speed, before the 60s, it would be on the dial, and that's exactly what we're sort of trying to evoke here. There are a lot of elements that recall the 1463 series of chronographs. Now, it is an in-house Patek caliber of the modern era, so before you start complaining, yes, it does have hacking seconds. Also, Remember what I said about Patek launching the version we wanted right out of the gate? Fully loomed. And then we have sunken sub-registers for our seconds and instantaneous jumping minutes. And you can see each one of them features a concentric grain or an azurage internally. You'll watch as the seconds hand rolls over 12 that we do have those instantaneous jumping minutes, and I'll show you the minute jumper on the back of the watch once we watch that roll over. Boom, just like that. It is very crisp, and you can see it's bang on the index right there. Now, the column wheel feel is superb. And although Patek claims that it has some sort of meshing system that allows the seconds hand to jump less, it's still a lateral clutch, and in my experience, it has a lot of the periodic leaps or bounds that occur with a lateral clutch, so it'll jump out about half a second when you start it. But that's what you get with the lateral clutch. It's the most traditional, it's the most difficult for a watchmaker to assemble and regulate, and that's why it's in the premium chronographs from Patek Philippe, not the general chronographs. It takes a higher level Patek Philippe watchmaker to work with a metal overcoil hairspring and a lateral clutch chronograph than to work with a silicon hairspring and a vertical clutch. And the reason is it takes greater skill and experience to work with these more traditional systems. So if you're wondering why no vertical clutch, because this is more demanding and more artisanal. Now, the column wheel is capped in Geneva style. Most decoration has some sort of functional purpose. Capped column wheels were originally envisioned as a way to prevent shock or concussion to the, at one point, pocket watch from allowing the levers and horns of the chronograph to jump out of the crenellated tops of the column wheel. So by capping it, they're contained, and that was the original idea there. Of course, polishing it and beveling it is a modern affectation, but like I said, most decorative elements have historic purposes. Another one would have been beveling. You can see the bevels here, but they once had a clear intent. If there were any burrs left from machining, it would be possible on a raw bridge that accidental contact from a tool or even just handling could cause those burrs or sharp edges to break off and get caught in the train. And if you had a right angle on the edge of a bridge, contact by a tool could also break off a piece that could get into the train. So the beveling would remove that problem by creating a radius. Putting the bevels inside jewel sinks, again, not just beautiful, it is today, but historically, particularly before intricately formed jewels with integral cups were created, that little bevel inside the jewel sink would help to retain the lubricant and basically prevent it from running out of its cup, keeping it contained so it wouldn't move across the bridge. That had two purposes. One was aesthetic, to prevent a mess, but the other was to keep it from wicking out and evaporating. So that little bevel inside the jewel sink, even that had a purpose. Almost everything you find that's decorative has some sort of functional purpose as its origin. Now we've got a 65-hour power reserve here, 4 Hertz beat rate. We do have hacking. Here's the instantaneous minute jumper with its wheel and its pawl. We have the overcoil hairspring that breathes concentrically in every position. The watch is adjusted in every position, as well as to hot, cold, and isochronism. The movement is the 29-535 Petite Seconde, and from Patek these days, they're being rated at no worse than -1 + 2 seconds per 24 hours. The column wheel feel that you get here is really fine, and you can see that the clutch itself is beautifully decorated. The brass bridges, they're rhodium plated. You can see they have stripes across their top. The chronograph parts are either mirror polished or satinated on their top, but the parts that are satinated and black polished on the top, they're universally beveled on their sides. You can see engine turning in several different sizes on the base plate. There's a lot to love here. It's a 33 jewel movement, and although it's not as romantic as the previous Lemania-based CH2770, it is a larger movement to better fill the case back. It has a longer power reserve at 65 hours, the hacking function, the 4 Hertz beat rate, a lot of technical refinements that bring it bang up to date. And though Patek does say this 30-meter watch is suitable for swimming, given a push-down crown, I would say probably avoid that. I know it's theoretically possible, but I'm super conservative with my handling of watches, so that's just my input. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.